welcome back to my channel. Now I'm going to show you how I made this pocket shawl. Now a pocket shawl is like a wide long scarf and it's got a pocket in either end. I've got a pocket on this side as well as this side. I'll show you this. It's a bit of a thing to get it all into the picture. And you put your hand in when you've got it around your shoulders and around your neck. The way I made it this way, long ways. I crocheted all the way along, and this is the pattern I use. This is called Elizabethan stitch. I've done a similar stitch before on another blanket. I did, each section is 2 rows, and I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 4 for my pattern. Then I did 16 rows of half treble crochets, and then I did my Elizabethan stitch again. I did another 4 sections of it. You can make yours as wide as you want. Now I went back and forth long ways like this, all the way along, all the way back. You can, if you want, you can do this short way and work up the way. It's up to you. You can use lots of different stitches for these pocket shawls. This is the one that I made. You can just make it all half treble crochet, or you can make it all treble crochets. If you're in the USA, this is a half double crochet that I used, and I don't know what the equivalent in the USA would be for an Elizabethan stitch. So that's what I use for that. You can make your pocket shawl as long as you want that fits you. I can't tell you how many stitches to use because I don't know how many it'll take to go around your shoulders and down the front of you. You'll have to do that yourself. But to get this pattern, I did it this way. I did my pockets separate. And again, I can't tell you how many stitches to use for your pocket. I don't know what size pockets you want. You may want a bigger pocket, you may want a smaller pocket. It's up to you. I did 2 separate squares for my pocket. I did 1 row of that stitch. I actually did it this way. I did 1 row of the stitch, and I did 16 rows of the half treble crochet. I just turned the pocket that way and I stitched it on. I just stitched all the way around. I stitched the pocket onto the scarf down the side of the pattern. I did my pocket so it fitted inside the pattern area like this. I'm going to show you how to do this stitch, and then that is just a half treble crochet. I'll show you how to do that as well. Now if you want to know what yarn this is Women's Institute, and I got it from my friend Claire. It's from Hobbycraft and it's 400 grams. This whole shawl took 400 grams of yarn. So the stitch count for this pattern is 2. So I'm just going to chain a length as a sample. You will do your chain as long as you want it to go. So when you do your chain, you'll do it so it's hip high all the way up around your neck and down the other side. So you'll do your chain the length that you want. I'm just going to do a little sample and I'll show you how I did this stitch. So I'm going to show you the stitch that I did, and I'm going to do it as I was doing, I'm going to do it as if I was doing a pocket. Now what we're going to do is, into the second stitch in the chain, you're going to do yarn over and go into that stitch. Pull your yarn through. Then do yarn over again and go into the next stitch. Pull your yarn through. So you've got 3, 4, 5. We need 11 stitches on the hook. Yarn over through the next one. That's the third time. Yarn over through the next one. That's it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yarn over and through the next one. So we should have 11 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yarn over and pull through all of those stitches. Chain 1 just to lock it all, and then chain 1 more. So what you're going to do now is you've got your first edge of your pattern. You're going to do a yarn over and see that loop there. You're going into that loop. Go in to there and pull your yarn through. Now at the bottom of this cluster here, this bottom part, go through those 2 stitches of that cluster. We need to do a yarn over first. So yarn over and go through there. Pull your stitch through. Yarn over. You're going to go into the very bottom of that stitch. That hole there. Go into there. Pull through. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're going to use the next 2 stitches on the chain. So yarn over and go into the next stitch in the chain, pull through, yarn over and into the next stitch in the chain and pull through. So you should have 11 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Yarn over and pull through all of those stitches. If you can't get through all of them, just pull through a few at a time until you get it there. Yarn over, chain 1 to lock them together and chain 1 more. So this is what you've got. We're going to yarn over again, put your wool over your hook. You're going into that loop there, the one that holds all that cluster. Through and pull your yarn. So you've got 3 stitches. You're going to these stitches here. You're just going to push your hook, put yarn over and push your hook through the bottom of that cluster. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. Now if you're a beginner, you can rewind the video, but give this a try. It's a really pretty stitch. Yarn over and you're going into the very bottom of that cluster. Now your cluster is inside that stitch and that's where you're going. You're going in there and pull through. Then we're going to use the next 2 stitches on the chain. Yarn over through your next stitch, yarn over and through the next stitch, and you should have 11 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Yarn over and come through all of those stitches. Chain 1 to lock it and chain 1 again. Remember that chain 1. You'll need that when we come back. And this is what you've got. You've got your little pattern turning like this. So you're going to do that all the way along your chain. So yarn over and into that first loop. So that's your first one. Yarn over into that cluster, that's your cluster, into there. Pull through, yarn over and into the stitch where your cluster is. Your cluster, you've got a stitch in there, but you're going in again. And pull through. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. yarn over, and we're going to do the next 2 stitches in the chain. Pull through, that gives you 9, yarn over and pull through, gives you 11 stitches. Yarn over again and pull through all of them. If you can't get through all of them at once, just come through a few at a time. Oops, watch it doesn't pop off your hook. Yarn over, chain 1 to lock it and chain 1 again. Yarn over into the big loop, yarn over, you're going into the cluster, just pick up the 2 stitches, the last 2 in that cluster, then yarn over and into the same stitch that those 2 were in, into there, very bottom, yarn over and into the next stitch in the chain, and yarn over and into the next stitch in the chain. You should have 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yarn over, pull through all your stitches. If you can't get through, then just take it a few at a time. Chain 1 to lock it and chain 1 again. And you're going to do that all the way along your chain till you get to the end. So I've got 3 stitches left, so I'm going to do my yarn over, go through the large loop that holds the cluster, yarn over. So we're picking up these 2 stitches that are here in the cluster, yarn over, and you're going into the same stitch that your cluster, your last stitches of your cluster are in, yarn over, and the last 2 in my chain, into that one, yarn over and into that one, and I've got 1 little stitch left on the end there. You're going to pull through all your 11 stitches, oops, just pull it through, yarn over to lock your cluster. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do another chain, I'm going to go into this last stitch with a UK half treble crochet. If you're in the USA, this is a double crochet, a half double crochet. So into that last stitch, into there, just pull it through there, yarn over and through those 3 stitches. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now into all my stitches I'm going to put a double crochet. If you're in the USA, it's a double crochet. If you're in the USA, this is a single crochet. So go through that first stitch and do a double crochet. Now you're going to go through the loop space that's there, into that loop space. You're going into the top of So you're going into the top of your cluster and do your next stitch, a double crochet into the space and then into the top of the cluster, and you're going to work a double crochet all the way along, 1 into the top of the cluster and 1 into that space, top of the cluster and into the space. So I'm going into the top part of that cluster and do my double crochet and then into the chain space, and then into the top of that cluster there with that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to do another pattern row. So we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. You're going to turn. Now we're going to pick up these 3 stitches that's here. You're going to skip this one right at the top and work these 3 and then these 2 to make our 5 stitches that we're using. So yarn over and you're going into that stitch, that second stitch, yarn over into the next stitch, keep them on your hook. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn over, yarn over and do these 2 stitches. So we should have 11 stitches. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Yarn over and pull through all of those stitches. Chain 1 to lock your cluster and chain 1 more. Remember and do that chain 1. What we're going to do now is the same as we did for this pattern. We're going in to the loop that's here. So yarn over and into that big loop. Yarn over and into the bottom of the cluster. Pick up those 2 strands at the bottom of the cluster. Yarn over into that big loop right at the bottom. You've got a stitch in there, so this is the one we're going into, and then 2 off the top of here. So into the next one, yarn over into the next one, and you've got your 11 stitches. Yarn over and pull through all of those stitches. Chain 1 to lock it and 1 more chain. Yarn over into the big loop, yarn over into this part of the cluster, yarn over into that big space, and then the next 2 stitches. So yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over and through all your stitches. Chain 1 to lock it and chain 1, and this is what we get this really pretty cluster stitch. So the stitch is actually on this side here and it's really pretty. So after that you'll do your double crochet row and then go back, chain 4 and turn, and then do another one of your pattern. And that is what I did for my shawl. I did that for my shawl, and this is what it looks like when you've got a lot of it done. And I'll show you this side here. So this is what the pattern looks like. So you just keep repeating that pattern. I did 4, and then I did 16 rows of a half treble crochet. If you're in the USA, that's a half double crochet. So I'll just pop my shawl to the side. My last stitch. I've done my last cluster and I've got my last stitch, and I'm just going to do a half treble crochet into that last stitch. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and that's what I did for the pattern. So I'm going into the first stitch, then into the space, then into the top part of that cluster, then into the space, into the top of the cluster, and then the space. So you're not going into that stitch there. So you're going into the space that's where that half moon part is. Then into the space, top of the cluster, and into the space, all the way along to the end. You get with your pattern a pattern row and a pattern row and a double crochet row, pattern, double crochet, and you just keep doing that for as long as you want to. Now each shawl, each pocket shawl is totally individual, and the pocket, it's up to you how wide you do your pocket, because your pocket can just be a small pocket or you can do a larger pocket, and it's just a square. The pocket is a square. You'll just do so many patterns, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. This is how big I did my pocket, and when I sewed it on, I just turned it a little bit and I stitched all the way around the pocket. Now there's no point in me showing you how to make a square pocket, because your pocket might be different from my pocket. And chain 1 and turn. Now a half treble crochet in the USA is a half double crochet. So you put your yarn over, and I'm going into that very first stitch, pull through, yarn over and pull through all those 3 loops, yarn over into the next stitch, pull through, you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all of them. And that is what I did for 16 rows, and that's how I did the pocket and the shawl. So a half treble crochet into each stitch. So when you get to the end, chain 1 and turn, and just do the same again right into that very first stitch, and do 16 rows of your half treble crochets. The last few stitches with my half treble crochet, one into that last one. So I'm going to start the pattern again, but to do that I'm going to do 1 row of double crochet. If you're in the USA, that's a single crochet row. So do 1 row of double crochet, and then we'll start our pattern. So I finished that row. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do 16 rows to get the same as this one. So you're doing 4 rows of the pattern with the pattern, and then a double crochet row, a pattern, a double crochet row, a pattern, double crochet, pattern, double crochet, and then do 16 rows of half treble crochets. And once you've done that, what you're going to do is we're going to start on the pattern again. So we're going to start doing the pattern. You're going to chain 4 at the end of this row. So let's pretend that you've done 16 rows. I don't have the time to do 16 rows and then show you the pattern again. So if you do 16 rows, then you'll start your pattern to finish off your shawl. So you'll do chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and turn. Now yarn over and go into that stitch, the next stitch down, yarn over into the next again stitch in that chain, then yarn over and into that bottom stitch. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to use these next 2 stitches. Yarn over and into that next stitch, keep it on the hook, yarn over and into that next stitch, keep it on the hook. You should have 11 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Yarn over, pull through all of those stitches, chain 1 to lock it and chain 1 again. So now you're going into that stitch just like we did on the last pattern here. So into that big stitch, 1 into the bottom of the cluster and 1 into that space that your cluster is in, and then use that stitch, yarn over and use the next stitch. Pull through all your 11 stitches, chain 1 to lock it and chain 1 again. So yarn over and into that big space, yarn over into the bottom of the cluster, yarn over into the space where your stitch is. Your stitch is here in that cluster and you're going into that big space. Then yarn over and we're going to do these 2 stitches. Yarn over and into that stitch. You should have 11. Come through them all, chain 1 to lock it and chain 1 again. And that's what you're going to do. You'll do that and then you'll do a double crochet row, another pattern row and a double crochet row, and do that pattern again. You always chain 4 to start the pattern on that, and that is what you get. And you can do that for a pocket as well. Now just remember what I said about my pocket. I did 14 of the pattern and 16 rows of the half treble crochets, and that is how I made, I'm going to pop that over there, and this is my pocket shawl finished. Now, like I've just keep saying to you, your pocket, oops, get that up there like that. Now you make the pocket the size you want. It's just a square, and then you're going to stitch it in to your shawl. And this is what the shawl actually looks like. I'll get a couple of pictures and I'll put them on as well. And that is how you make a pocket shawl scarf. If you need to, then just rewind the video, rewind it, and you'll be able to watch it again to do that stitch. It's up to you if you do your whole shawl in that stitch. This whole shawl took 400 grams of yarn. I did 4 rows of my pattern, 16 rows of half treble crochets, and then another 4 of the pattern. But please don't ask me how many chains to make, because each pocket scarf, each pocket shawl is up to you. It's your individual length that you want, and that is how I made this one. You can use any pattern that you want for your pocket shawl. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel. Just click on that subscribe button that's there, and if you click on the bell icon, then YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.